and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you to be here to learn more about our topic today, which is increasing Salesforce productivity and user adoption with CalendarAnything and Riva. My name is Tani, and I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Riva CRM Integration, and I'll be assisting as moderator on the call today. Now, just a little about our speakers today. On the call, we have Scott Thomas. Scott is the VP of Products for Silverline, and he manages development of all Silverline App Exchange products, as well as Silverline industry-specific solutions, which include financial services and healthcare. And from Riva, we have Jim Dunn. Jim is our Regional Sales Manager for the Northeastern United States. And among Jim's areas of expertise are the verticals of financial services, healthcare, and commercial accounts. Here's a quick look at today's agenda. Scott will be introducing us to Silverline and show us how their flagship product, CalendarAnything, can be used to create calendars from any standard or custom object in Salesforce. And then Jim will share a little about Riva and show how to use Riva to integrate CalendarAnything and other Salesforce data. And we'll finish up with a Q&A session. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Scott Thomas. Scott, welcome, and let me give you presenter controls.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Yes, I'm Scott Thomas. I'm with Silverline. Just a couple of quick facts about who we are. We're a New York City-based Salesforce Platinum Cloud Alliance partner. We've been developing for Salesforce since 2010. We build custom solutions and implementations, all kinds of different types of solutions for our clients. We focus most of our services work in healthcare and financial services. And oftentimes out of that services work, we find capabilities that we like to bring into the product world and make them available to Salesforce users through the App Exchange. We have a number of products that we've done that with, and we're going to talk about one of our more popular products today, CalendarAnything. As Tony mentioned, it's a product that allows you to take any information that you have in Salesforce and display it on a calendar. Salesforce Calendar can show events and tasks. It has a lot of great capabilities, but many of our users have specific ways in which they want to be able to visualize their data. They want to be able to look at special filtered views. They've had lots of different use cases for things like scheduling and marketing campaign planning, project planning, resource planning use cases, and we've provided this solution to provide a very powerful and customizable calendar interface for Salesforce. And what we're going to be showing today are some examples of how that product works and how you can work with CalendarAnything. But then in terms of the relationship between CalendarAnything and Riva, Riva is a synchronization solution, because one of the biggest questions that we get from our customers asking about CalendarAnything is, how do I synchronize my data with Outlook, with Exchange, or with Google Calendar or other calendaring platforms? And our product is not a synchronization solution, but when you pair a powerful calendar solution with a powerful synchronization solution like Riva, you get a capability that really does help with user adoption, because one of the biggest problems with user adoption is the need to sort of force people to use a system that they're not familiar with. When you have diehard Outlook users who live and breathe in Microsoft Outlook, getting them to enter information into Salesforce is not always easy. Well, when you have a solution where that same user can work with calendar information in Salesforce and that same calendar information in Outlook, and it's always up to date and in sync, then they can use the tool that's most appropriate for them. And this also works great when you have a centralized scheduling situation and people are out on the road using Outlook. So why don't we jump into the demo, and I'll show you a little bit about how CalendarAnything works, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jim, and he'll show you how Riva keeps everything in sync. So this is CalendarAnything. You install it right off the App Exchange. It's a very customizable solution. You don't need to do any kind of custom code. Administrators can create calendars. Even end users can create calendars. And we have the standard views that you'd expect. We have a month view. We have a week view that shows things as time slots. Day view. We have some other custom views that I'll show you in a minute. I can click on any of these items and see more detail about it without having to actually leave this page and go into a Salesforce detail page. So I can not only see information on here, but I can also edit these things right here, and I can change fields, and you have complete control over which fields are showing up here. These are the calendars that we have here in this particular org, and you can see I have calendars that are showing events, but I can also overlay other different calendars. So there's one that's based on tasks. Here's a calendar that's based off of opportunities. showing, based on opportunity close date. And I can create calendars for any object that I have in Salesforce, any of the standard objects like event, tasks, and opportunities, but also things like custom objects, anything that I have, campaigns if I want to do campaign planning. So you can see that I have them color coded. That's a big request that people have. I can also filter these. Like in this case here, I have a calendar created to show just Jim's events, and I can create individual calendars to show certain people's events. I can even have a calendar that's showing everybody's events and showing me how those look, and show me who the different events are assigned to and color code them by different conditions. So lots and lots of flexibility to be able to show Salesforce information on a calendar, but color coding it, filtering it to show me the information that I need, and also overlaying different pieces of information on top of one another. So this is a very powerful solution. Lots of people use it for scheduling. Like I mentioned, we have other different views. We have sort of this scrolling agenda view where you can see what's going on, again, all different objects together in the same agenda style calendar. I can choose to show additional fields here without even having to click in to details. So a lot of people like this view to see what's going on in summary. We have this very interesting Gantt view here that allows you to see information over time, and you could even look at that in different zoom levels, by week, by month, by day, like we had before. And even we have this swim lane view here that can show information and break it down by different things like who owns these accounts, so I can see what's going on for a group of people. Many people use this for team scheduling. So again, all this information here, all these different views serve a lot of different use cases. And the most important thing to understand here is that all this information is there in Salesforce. So when I go in and look at my calendar and I want to move or create, let's say I want to create a new meeting for 3:30. We'll make that 3:30 to 4:30, and we'll call this created in webinar. So we know what it was, and it's assigned to Jim here, and I'm going to relate that to an account and put in a little description. And now I've created that event. So there it is. It's at 3:30, and that's a Salesforce record now. And if any workflow is happening when you create a new event, that will happen as well. And not only can I create those, but I can also just drag and drop to move them. So let me move that down to 4:30. So there's an example just of the power of the calendaring platform. And why is this important? Well, to the perspective of this discussion here today, this webinar, everything that I've done there, all those changes that I made are all synchronized in the background into Outlook, into Exchange, without the user having to do anything. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jim, who's going to talk more about Riva and all of its capabilities and what the power of synchronization really means between Salesforce and Outlook.
Hello, I am Jim Dunn. I am the territory manager for Riva in the Northeast. A little background on Riva. So Riva is headquartered out of Edmonton, Canada, and we have offices scattered around the United States. This slide is a kind of a good place to start because it talks about the mission when Riva first started to create a server-side integration platform for CRM and for email. We recognized that at that time there were a lot of integration technologies, if you will, that did a client-side plugin to integrate the two applications, but there were a lot of challenges, a lot of limitations, as there still are today, doing client-side build. So it was our mission to come up with a server-side sync and all the advantages associated with that, and we'll talk about that as we proceed through the presentation. As Scott had pointed out, the reason you want to integrate the two applications is so you have better CRM adoption. Okay, that's kind of, we know, universally been a challenge for a lot of companies. And, the game with that is that you get higher level productivity out of your end users, and you get better data to manage in CRM as you run analytics against it, and you modify sales models and customer support service models as well. So it leads us to allowing users to benefit from a reliable CRM integration. And you'll see that we have done that in a very broad way to support a lot of different platforms. We're happy to tell you that we've been successful since the beginning, and we have over 1,000 customers today. And of those customers, a lot of them are large. So 35 of the Fortune 500 companies, it's really 15 of the 50 world's largest banks. And then, a lot of mixed vertical accounts. To indicate the scalability of Riva, we have a bank that is synchronizing over 25,000 active calendars for over 2 years. All good news. So why do customers prefer Riva? Well, compared to, again, to the Outlook, the plugins available on the market, they find there's greater reliability and greater performance in terms of the integration. We offer a secure cloud architecture, but we also offer an on-premise version as well. And the interesting thing is that it's one native application. So one native application will run on-premise or in the cloud, and across all of the different client platforms as well as mobile devices. So these are key differentiators for Riva. We support all of the Salesforce CRM clients, as well as all of the Microsoft, Oracle, Sugar, NetSuite, and as you can see, all the way through SAP. I think we support today 15 CRM applications that are recognized by Gartner in their Magic Quadrant. As far as the email platforms, we support all of the major email platforms. So if you look at Microsoft 2003 through 2013 Exchange, as well as 3 through 13 in terms of Outlook clients, their web app, and we don't care if it's virtualized, if you will, on Citrix or terminal services, as well as the Mac mail clients, Apple Mail, Entourage for Mac, 04 and 08, as well as iCal, and again, also on the mobile devices. Same thing with web applications like Office 365, as you can see. Same thing with IBM Notes, Domino, including their latest release, 2015, of IBM Verse, as well as all of the Notes clients, 6 through 9, and then Novell, and then we just recently introduced support for Gmail and Google Apps. So we like to think of ourselves as hardware agnostic, and this again is a big differentiator for a lot of customers. Okay, we're certainly compatible with Windows desktops and laptops, Outlook, IBM Notes, GroupWise, but also Mac OS desktops and laptops as well. And I mentioned before Citrix terminal services or the webmail. But one of the things that people have really been challenged with, and it's kind of interesting with the whole BYOD movement, is having a native application, no client downloads, to support mobile applications, which we do, iPad, iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, Windows, and tablets. To be able to handle the integration requirements for companies today, we believe that you have to be fairly agnostic across all hardware platforms because of the way people work today. And what this means is I'm a sales rep on a mobile device and I need to synchronize contacts while I'm working mobilely, or I need to append an email to an account record, or I need to create an opportunity. I can do that virtual, physical way. That gives me that worker flexibility. So what do we think? So of course, contacts, B2B or even building person accounts, B2C, leads, and all of the descriptive information associated with the address book. Calendars, appointments and meetings, recurring events, and phone calls. So in calendaring, we have some things that we do exceptionally well that others have struggled with, right? We do global sync. We do private appointments where you can tag an appointment as private, build that time block as busy or unavailable, right, without exposing any of the content. We do recurring meetings, different policies around that so that you can have certain retention for past meetings and how you manage the meeting series when you do editing. And then when we look at the next category of custom data is a very significant piece, and it kind of speaks to the maturity of the product set, because a lot of people like to build custom objects and custom fields and custom categories within their model. So what does that mean? Well, you'll see when we do the demo that there's a certain workflow advantages to being able to categorize certain kind of data elements and have them sync between the two applications. Email tracking to CRM, which is fairly unique, is the ability to take emails and in an automated fashion, very simply append them to the account record, the opportunity, or something that would build the kind of data that you require as you're managing a particular account or opportunity. Same thing with opportunities here, you'll see. And so what I'm going to show you today in the demo, okay, is pretty much out-of-the-box functionality. So here I am. I'm in Exchange. And on your sidebar panel, what you see here is one minor difference. You'll see what we call a drop folder here. As I expand that, I have a series of drop folders. And these drop folders, again, are out-of-the-box functionality. Okay, they are determined by the specification and the synchronization requirements of the customer, but you could extend that to include other things. So that could include quotes, projects, work orders, and custom categories associated with specific workflows of an organization. We use this as one of the primary ways to move data, typically email data, to synchronize with CRM, and I'm going to actually show you that as we move along. The other thing you might notice is down here, we have a folder. And this folder represents, the folders are separate, right, just so that you know, from contacts and whatever other folders you might have in your Exchange environment. But the Salesforce folder represents all of my CRM contacts in my demo environment here. So you would configure the fields here, the column labels, according to what information you want represented. But again, it gives me the opportunity to very easily be able to make changes and edit information that's going to synchronize with CRM. For instance, I see right here that I have a gap in information. So I might just click this, and I'm missing his title, Peter's title. So I'm going to put him in as CRN. That's simple. I'm going to save, and on the next synchronization cycle, you will see that title has been corrected. Let's talk about integration to CalendarAnything. So let me come over to calendaring. Here I'm looking at a standard Outlook calendar view. And I believe that Scott had actually put into the 28th information that created in webinar. So let's just see. I'm going to click this hyperlink, and a lot of things in Outlook, we've built hyperlinks so that you're directed when you hit the hyperlink to the exact record. You're not going to do any searching and then trying to navigate through CRM. It's linked directly, so it makes for any changes and editing you want to do in CRM immediately. So here's the information, and if I come over here and I hit calendar anywhere, we can see that we are synchronized, and here's the information here. If I wanted to make any editing or add details or whatever, I would do it right here. And I've got the policy set up so it's a bidirectional sync. Now, typically in calendars, you're going to probably design a mirror image, kind of a one-for-one. Everything that resides in Outlook, you're going to want to have reside in Salesforce as well. It gives me also the opportunity to now look at some other things. So let me get rid of events for a second. Well, actually, what I'll do is I think I'll create an event. So I go back here into my calendar, and let's see. I'm going to go to one of my contacts, and I'm going to go to, I don't know, let's see, try this Thompson Technology, okay. Now, again, I could hyperlink directly to the record in Salesforce, or I could set up a meeting. So I'm going to set up a meeting with Brian Wall, and the subject is going to be, okay, and I'll just put, he'll know this, go to meeting. All right, and so we have it set for 3:30 on 4/28. I'm going to actually make it a little bit later. I'm going to make it for 4:30, and I'm going to send. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Actually, what I'm going to do is, let me just do that again. I'll tell you why. This is demo data. And so if I build a meeting, same thing, okay, read the demo. I'm going to go to meeting. Now I'm going to save this. Don't send. Okay. Dismiss that. And let's go over to CalendarAnything and look at my events. And here it is. Again, if I wanted to append or edit that particular record, I'd be able to do so. So Riva also will support shared calendars. Riva will also cross over in terms of contacts and contact syncing, multiple groups, teaming environments, and there's a whole vast rules engine associated with how you manage contacts. Multiple sync policies for different groups that have different requirements, and that. So, advance in that sense. So let's go back here to Outlook a second, and let's look at opportunities. So I come over to opportunities. And now what I like about this as a salesperson is I can pretty much have my whole pipeline reflected right in Exchange. Right? So if I want to sort my, or make changes, I can sort by probability. I can sort by close date, pretty standard stuff. But I can also then open up an opportunity. Okay, using what we call Riva Connect Bar, I can edit that opportunity. And as I mentioned earlier, it brings me right to that specific record in the opportunities section of Salesforce. So it's very quick in that sense. Now, leveraging the power of CalendarAnything, I can also, let's clear that screen a little bit, look at just my opportunities. So you put your opportunities in a time schema, helps you visualize where they should really land in terms of the close date. So if I wanted to, I could take, I could take anyone. I guess I could take Pat Bell, and I could move that out. I got new information. It told me, yeah, we're going to be delayed. It caught an administrative review. Okay, I'll synchronize. And so we've moved that over to the 14th. We've moved that out. So I'm going to come over to Outlook, look at my opportunities list view, and lo and behold, we've moved that out to the 14th, Pat Bell. So you can see the synchronization is quick, efficient. It's very easy to drag and drop. The other way that we can interface with Salesforce is using categories, or we can use Smart Convert. So Smart Convert is a real time saver. I use it every day. And so I've received from Trevor a set of emails. So let's say, hey, great to meet in New York City. So we just met. He has my card. He sent me an email. He's not in CRM. Now, if he is in CRM, right, the system polls CRM to make sure that we're not creating a duplicate. Here's how I interface with email. And I drag it right over here to create a new email. You'll notice a couple things happen. One, this digit shows up. Secondly, temporarily, that particular email has left its kind of cooking, right, in terms of synchronizing with CRM. And on the next sync cycle, what will happen is the information related to Trevor will, it'll tell me processing is complete, but what will happen is the system goes into CRM, as I mentioned before, polls to see if Trevor and the account he's associated with exists in CRM. And if not, we can automatically create that account, can automatically create that contact. He also asked me for 250 licenses. So now that he's in CRM, and I could probably do this in one fell swoop. I can actually do this from a calendar element as well. But I'm going to set up a new opportunity now. So the way it works is with Smart Convert, we utilize the information contained in Trevor's email. We go out into cyberspace and verify that the URL associated with the website is a real account, and we build that account. So it's a huge time saver, especially when you're busy working with a lot of emails. Once we sync, what we are going to see is, again, processing complete, right? And I'm going to come over to Cal Anywhere. And now the other thing I could do is come over here and simply look at my opportunities. Okay, and here it is. So again, that's in tandem working with CalendarAnything and some of the functionality I showed you here today with the Riva Sync capabilities. It's a very, very powerful way to manage your accounts. One other thing that I'd like to point out now is we have what we call Riva Insight. Now, Riva Insight is a side panel that we like to think parses enriched data, okay, relevant to managing your accounts, your contacts, your opportunities. So if I were to come over here and go back to my CRM contacts in Exchange, and as I move to different contacts here, What I see happen in the side panel is I get the information I need, address book-related information, so it's at my fingertips to be able to make a phone call, whether it's corporate or sell or whatever. Again, these are data elements that are contained in CRM that are field mapped and connected. I have the email right there. I'll have their local time zone. But I also have the ability to look at, what have I done recently and what do I have coming up? So let's look at recent interactions. Wow. Okay, and I can open up these recent interactions and make sure that I'm current on the things I'm responsible to be doing for that customer. Maybe send a quote or send a demo deck or whatever it may be before I make that call. Keeps one honest. But I also have some upcoming events as well. As a matter of fact, I can do that in calendars. I can also do that in emails as well. Now, the other thing is this first generation, we released it first quarter, but I think, let me see if I show you down here, or up here, sorry. We're also looking at a lot of other capabilities out of this view. So we're going to be looking at the ability to parse in Geo Information. So where is this contact located, right? What is their time zone? What is their weather like today? Things that you probably would be, you'd benefit by knowing before you made the call, etc. Google News, Google Apps, perhaps Wikipedia. But if you extrapolate a little bit, think about the subscriptions that companies have. They might want to have Dun & Bradstreet or Bloomberg. They might want to have, website information. They might want to have news capsules associated with that particular account. And so it creates a very powerful mini environment before you make, contact with your customer. So I think, Tony, at this point, I'm probably good. I think what I'd just like to end with is to say that when you think about Riva, especially if you haven't been tracking us or you're new to us, think about high, wide, and deep. So high in the sense that the scalability for syncing contacts and calendars and managing email has been proven. Right? As I pointed out, 26,000 calendar syncs for several years. Think about wide, the ability to support not only PCs and Macs, but mobile devices seamlessly with one native application, so the user interface is the same. And so the training aspect is minimal. And then when you look at deep, the advantage we have is the length of time that we've been singularly focused on this integration piece that gives us, a very vast rules engine as well as customization capabilities. And I think that, what that does is that raises that CRM to a higher level in terms of form fitting. You get higher adoption rates, higher, faster returns, better ROI, and lower cost of ownership. So we take very, very, very good care of our customers. Customer retention is a metric that we're all measured on, and we're proud of it. So I'd like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank Silverline, and Silverline is one of our top Salesforce partners. And I'd like to thank Tony, and I'd like to thank everybody that attended this webinar. So, Tony, I think we're probably ready for questions.
We do have several questions. The first comes from Kelly, and this one is for Jim. Kelly is wondering about sync cycles. If you could clarify, is it every 30 minutes or an hour? Can you set that?
Well, sync cycles are configurable, right? And so, it's a dialogue that we like to have with customers when we kind of understand their model and their requirements better. So, the frequency typically for contacts might be every 15 minutes. Calendars are kind of automated, and that's in peak times. Again, that can be tweaked if there's a requirement for it to be more rapid. But again, a lot of the data that you're going to move from Exchange over to your CRM, Salesforce, it's really archival. It's really to make sure that the record is complete, consistent, and current, and you're more in an operational mode in Exchange, and that's what drives productivity and user adoption.
Thank you, Jim. Now, a question for Scott. Scott, Stan is wondering, where does this calendar data get stored?
That's a good question. The calendar data is your Salesforce data. So we don't have any kind of hosted solution. There's no separate data store. We're simply using the data that already exists in Salesforce to present that. You can create records, you can edit them and synchronize them, build workflow off of them. It's your Salesforce data, secure and available only to you. So you install the application right there in your org, and it's all your data.
Great, thank you. And Janelle is wondering if she has a custom object, can she synchronize that with Riva? Scott or Jim, I'm not sure which of you would like to take that.
I think that'd be a question for Jim. I mean, from the CalendarAnything perspective, you can absolutely create calendars based off of custom objects. So when you create a calendar, you would specify what object it should be based off of, and then you specify a few other things. So you say, what is the date, or what are the date fields that should represent the start and the end date? So let's say you had a custom project calendar. You might want to have a start date that's the project kickoff date, and then an end date that's the expected end date. Some people have different project calendars that show expected start dates and different milestones for calendars. So you can even create multiple calendars off of the same object that are showing different things, different phases of the project. So you have a lot of flexibility on that, and you can choose which field it is that displays the title on the calendar, and a lot of our customers even use formula fields to pull together information from different fields and display it so that they can have a very descriptive title there. So you have that calendar there. You could show it in Salesforce, and I'll let Jim talk about what you can do in terms of synchronizing those. And again, with CalendarAnything, you can view, create, and edit any of those custom object records, assuming that the user has the appropriate permissions, because it's an app exchange product and it has to pass a stringent security review. It would only allow you to do the things that you can normally do in Salesforce. You can only see the records and the objects that you have permission to based on your profile. You can only create or edit records that you have permission to. You can only see fields that you have permission to, all based on standard Salesforce permissions.
Thanks, Scott.
That was a great overview, Scott. Just to add, building custom objects, custom field mapping, using filters to fine-tune the performance, the interaction or interoperability between the two applications is something that we do quite frequently. The answer is most likely, but again, we really want to kind of drill down and understand the nature of the request from the customer. I will tell you that a high percentage of our larger accounts or financial institutions have some level of customization. I think it's certainly above 75%. And so I think that is something, again, that we've been doing since our inception, and it's something, again, that allows you to make a transition, right? If you're using another source of integration that isn't meeting your requirements, make that transition, because the form-fitting factor, so to speak, is what raises CRM adoption. So you've got to be able to map and model to your requirements. It's something, again, that is core to the whole application Riva offers.
Wonderful. All right, our next question is from Sharon, and she is wondering if you can invite multiple people to calendar events and track the event against these multiple contacts in Salesforce with CalendarAnything and Riva.
Right now in CalendarAnything, you can't really do the multiple invitees, so that's something that is on our roadmap, but we don't currently allow you to do that. But in standard Salesforce, I'm sure if you created a multi-attendee event, it would synchronize with Exchange appropriately.
Thank you, Scott. Now, Terry is wondering, from a Riva perspective, if there are configuration options available for automatic email archiving.
Yes, there is. And we have customers that actually prefer that methodology. I think their reason being is they want to capture everything, and they believe that it's best for their business practice to do so. Our position, and again, we vet through this with our customers, but as a best practice, we really don't recommend that. I know as a salesperson, I don't want all of the emails from a particular account to be logged in to that user, my user record for that account. It's just too much information. It's the first aspect. The other aspect, CRM is really not a repository for monstrous amounts of information like Exchange emails. And so a lot of that's going to be non-relevant related information that one would have to sort through to get to information that's more relevant to managing an opportunity or to the account. So most people don't like to do that. They would prefer to use categories in Outlook, or if you're on a mobile device, or even like I showed here in the demo, they prefer to use the drop folders because it's quick, it's easy, it syncs immediately, and you have that information as it would pertain to opportunities or cases or to the account. So, but again, that's something that we work through in a kind of consultative manner with customers.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Marianne, and she would like to know if you can sync calendars and also are shared calendars and resource calendars supported?
In CalendarAnything, we have the ability to display resource calendars. There's a particular setup that you have to do. We don't have direct access to the resource calendar like Salesforce does, but there's a joiner object in Salesforce that can tie the resources that are attached to events, and so we've worked with customers to create at least read-only views of resource calendars to show which resources are in use, and so then we can display them on our calendar. And I'm not sure how Riva syncs those.
Well, I would think that again, it would say the resource objects or resource calendars. I don't know. I don't have experience with that, so I'm really guessing. But again, we do have support for multiple calendaring with different rules associated with them. So I'm thinking that it's possibly within that kind of configuration. We support shared calendars, and we do support resource calendars.
All right, moving on. Joseph says, with the native Salesforce for Outlook plugin, we have challenges syncing recurring events. I heard Jim mention that Riva does support recurring events. If you move a recurring set of events to a new date, will Riva sync the updated set of events? That was a long one.
Yeah, for years, we've been doing calendar synchronization. It's probably one of the more important or more popular integration elements that we do. And so one of the requirements was to make sure that we had the ability to synchronize recurring meetings, phone calls, etc. And so if you do make changes in the primary calendar, it will impact all of the series. There's time limits, but there's around that. Typically, it will span out for, I think it's 12 months. But again, I think in terms of everything being configurable in Riva. So that's something that has been a requirement from customers from the beginning. It's something that we do exceptionally well. You can actually take a meeting that needs to be changed because of a holiday and move it, and it coordinates with the whole series.
From the CalendarAnything perspective, we do have the ability to display recurring events, create recurring events within the way that Salesforce supports them. So Salesforce has a series of supported recurrence patterns and maximum recurrence lengths and things like that. So because we're using Salesforce as the data store, we can display those recurring events on any of our calendar views, and you can edit those with the same rules that Salesforce allows.
Paul is asking for their service reps, particularly those out in the field on mobile devices. Is it possible to display contact detail for people associated with the calendar event? For example, show their name, mobile number, address, and email address in the calendar event body?
Yeah, that's a question for CalendarAnything. So when you define the fields that can show up, you can reach into related object records, so you can show like second level relationships. So you should be able to reach in and display those details. And it depends. There are certain limitations to that, but Salesforce is improving that all the time, giving us additional capabilities to reach into certain types of fields. The ones that are most troublesome wind up being related to a name, because those can be multiple different objects that they're pointing to. The name field could be a contact, or it can be a lead. Related to can be one of a number of different object types. So there are some limitations in terms of what we can do there. But in general, you can reach into a lookup field or something and then find out other detail fields about that related record and then display them within the CalendarAnything detail dialog, within the CalendarAnything mobile display, like I showed in the agenda view, and different things like that. So we can provide some more information on that and talk in detail. I think we're going to have a slide that shows a contact information. So anyone that was interested in some more detail on any of these answers certainly will be able to reach out to me through that email, and we can provide more information about some of the specifics there.
Thanks, Scott.
And Tony, and so Riva supports that as well, the ability to see invitees' contact details in event bodies.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Mark says, we have an inside sales team that schedules meetings for external sales reps who work on iPhone, iPad, and Android. So their calendars will sync to the native calendar on their mobile devices without needing to run Salesforce for Outlook?
So I believe that's a Riva question. Again, synchronization to mobile device to be able to build calendar meetings and synchronize them is something that's straightforward with Riva. So yes, we certainly do that. We certainly support that. And again, our sync is happening 24/7, 365, whether you're online or offline. And so, again, building meetings, adding new contacts, archiving emails, and building opportunities is straightforward. We support all of that on again, the major mobile devices. And again, the user interface is similar. You're going to typically use the drop folders and to be able to create the synchronization through that mechanism. And typically, the calendar is going to be an automatic sync.
Thank you, Jim. Chris would like to know if you can print calendars. That's a Scott question.
Yes, we do have the ability to print calendars. We print them out. They don't necessarily look like a print screen would. We print them out kind of intended to paginate. So it's very similar to what you would get in Salesforce when you print out a day or a week calendar, where you would see kind of those events listed in order. And in our world, you can add additional details. Like if you print the agenda view, for example, it would print out a series of events that happen on each day, and it would include the additional detail fields like I showed in there. So it's a nice way to get a complete detailed printout, where otherwise some of those details might be hidden behind the subject if that were all that was printed out. Our Gantt view is a view that you actually can print out or save as an image. So it sometimes can be a very large image if you're printing out a long time frame, but that is one of our views that prints more like a screen capture because of the way that it's laid out. But we do have print options for all of the CalendarAnything views.
Great. And Brad is wondering, what edition of Salesforce do you need to use in order to use CalendarAnything?
So we support Professional Edition and above. With Professional Edition, you do need to have certain things turned on from Salesforce. It needs to be an Apex-enabled version of Professional Edition. And then we have some other capabilities in the product where you can share calendars externally using Force.com sites, or you can publish calendars as an iCal feed that could be subscribed to by Outlook or Google Calendar or iPhones. If you wanted to make those publicly available, those require Enterprise Edition so that you can use Force.com sites as the mechanism to publish those calendars to those people outside of Salesforce if you choose to do that.
Great, thank you. And we have a question from Karen who would like to know if Riva creates a new contact when you put it into the Create New email folder.
So, Karen, great question. So the Smart Convert capability that we feature allows you to take an email, and it might be a first-time connection with that sender, drag it into Create New Email. A couple of things happen. Again, the system, Riva, will poll Salesforce to make sure that we're not creating a duplicate. We'll look for the account information in CRM. It will look for the contact information. And if they do exist, then it will take that email and append the activity history record, so you have that as a reference piece of information associated with managing that account. If not, you have the ability, and again, this should be set up and be a sync option, but you have the ability to automatically create the account, automatically create the contact, and you could automatically create an opportunity if it was an opportunity as such. And we verify that, working off of the domain information in the email, that the account is a real account. So we query the URL to make sure that the website is a legitimate website, and that information is automatically created and contains all the contact information from the email. So there's several options in terms of how you can do that, but again, we believe, and a lot of our customers use it, that's a very, very quick, efficient way to get good information into CRM.
Wonderful. And Tom says, we want to track certain event types. In other words, customer meetings, conferences, training sessions, phone calls. If we assign custom categories to these event types in Exchange, can Riva sync that over to CalendarAnything so we can run reports in Salesforce on these activities?
Well, that would fall within the realm of custom objects and field mapping for CRM to be able to do that. So the easy answer is yes, but again, it's really just to kind of vet through and get a good understanding of what those objects are and how you want them to behave in terms of the integration.
Okay.
If I could just add to that last question, one of the things that you can do with CalendarAnything, if you did tag certain of those events with particular attributes, categories, pick list values, relationships to particular records, you can set up calendars to display them differently or to group them differently. In fact, we have a customer who uses both CalendarAnything and Riva, and their use case is they have a number of individual folks using Outlook. They're relating events to different financial funds that they manage, and then they use CalendarAnything to show a consolidated calendar that groups calendars by investment fund that this particular client is using. So it's a common use case that we have, and the combination of these two products can allow things like that to happen.
Wonderful. Thank you for adding that. Now, Suzanne says they have some Mac users who use Outlook for Mac or the native Apple Calendar app in Mac OS X. Would this CalendarAnything and Riva combination work for the Mac users?
Yes, completely supported.
CalendarAnything, you're just using Salesforce in a browser, so it can work on any platform.
That is our final question, it looks like, which is perfect since we're at the top of the hour. So visit CalendarAnything.com or RivaCRMintegration.com, or you can reach Scott or Jim at their email addresses. And I just wanted to thank everyone once again for your time. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and again, be sure to check out the websites for additional information or contact Scott or Jim on the emails listed on the screen, and hope you have a great day.